Alright, I went today and picked 12 80-pound bags of high-strength concrete mix and 6 bags of type S mortar mix. I went over to my mom's where I had a few blocks stored over there in the woods. I gathered those up. Every little bit helps. I got some here piled up in different places, but what I'm doing right here, we're looking at the 20-foot section of the shed. That's where the bandsaw mill is going to go. But what I got is, I'm trying to find my center point, which I have, and I've started digging this footer already. I'm going to dig a footer right in the center. It's going to be 40 inches. I'm going to go 4 feet. It's going to be 48 inches long, 12 inches wide. And it's going to get a 8-inch block 40 inches long, so the footer will be just a little bit bigger than the pier, as it should be. And when I get to that very center pier, about the 10-foot mark, I'm going to double that pier. That's going to be a 16-inch by 40. I think I mentioned it before, but it's going to take 4 beams to make this 20-foot run. Why 4? Why not just do 2 long beams? Well, my mill will only mill 16 foot long as it is. So instead of me milling 1 beam, or 2 beams rather, 16 foot long, starting here and coming down and having a junction somewhere about the 4 foot to go mark, I decided to cut it in half and do 2 10-foot beams to make the 20-foot run. Have that center pillar doubled so it'll be super strong at the junction point, and I think that'll be a lot better. So really, I didn't realize when I was building the shed I put these lateral braces. I had one from the back post going to the front post. I had one up high too, and what I did there was it was just keeping my post 12 foot exactly apart. And then I would just do my diagonal bracing to the sides, and that kept everything in check. Alright, my first footer is done. 48 inches long, 12 inches wide, and it's probably about 16 inches deep. I dug down till I got to some red clay down there, and I tamped the bottom of the hole pretty good. So now I will put 2 80-pound bags of concrete in here. Alright, I got my first footer poured. Got 2 80-pound bags in there. Now I just got to do 4 more. I at least wanted to get the 2 M ones done. Then I'll pull the lines. But out here on a Friday night, 60-some degrees getting her done in December. It is starting to rain. You might can hear that rain starting to hit the roof. I'll get the tester out today. But I got 1 footer dug and poured last night. It's still not quite dry. See how this water comes off the roof and everything. See if we got any leaks. We shouldn't have. It's just a simple shed roof, but I did screw it on the rib. A lot of people debate that. You got your people that like the flat rib and people who like to put it on the rib, or in the flat versus the rib. For anyone wondering what is the rib, well, it ain't raining so hard I can't step out and show you. If you look at that right there, the hump part is your rib. That's where I screwed mine. A lot of people want to screw in the flat. And the reason I like to screw on the rib is that water is going to run off both sides of that rib to the lowest point of the flat and come off naturally by gravity. The theory of that is, over the years, as if the rubber under the screw goes bad, It's going to leak a whole lot less if it's on the rib versus in the flat where all the water gets channeled to as it comes off the roof. Either way, you would have to replace the screw, but to me and to what some of the pros I've talked to say, you're better off going on the rib. But hey, I'm not judging. You do what's best for you. That's the way I look at it. I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I think a person should do whatever they're doing to suit their needs, their likes. If you're doing something that's working out for you, keep doing it. Alright, I've got my lines pulled. What I did here was starting at what I call the low point. Because the ground's lower over there, this will be the high point. So starting at the high point, I took this little laser level that my wife got me for Christmas. And you can turn it on right there. It casts a laser. You can see it right there. I made sure that board was level. I laid it on that board and it shot me a line down there on those two posts. And once I got that reference marked down there, lay this down. Once I got that line reference marked on the side of each of these posts down here, I got out my line level in line to confirm that it was actually right. So that laser is on. And once I got that reference, I nailed that board, which is just one of the laterals I had bracing these two posts during construction. And I set it at that height, completely level. That allowed me to pull a line down, measure here to get the width I wanted of the footers, and keep them parallel to each other from one end to the other. Now I got a line here and here to reference off of. I'll dig my footers. Alright friends, I have been at it almost all day, but I've got all 5 of my footers dug and poured. It has been a job. I hand dug them all. There's a center one that's a little bit bigger than the rest. It's going to be a 16 by 40 pier. The rest of them are going to be 8 by 40. Alright, I got the 2 end piers laid. I wanted to get them all laid, but I decided to lay the 2 end ones and let them fully dry. And then I could pull a good tight line from one to the other and get those 3 in the middle in perfect unison. But these are perfectly level this way, and the line going from here to there is perfectly level as well. So got that done. Got my pier down there. And when I'm done with all of them, I'll stucco them so you won't have to see the, because this is old block. I bought a few new ones. I got these old ones that I scratched up. I mean, block or block. I actually paid about $3.10 a piece for those at the local mom and pop hardware. So I didn't mind scratching up some of the used ones I had, but anyway, they'll get stuccoed when I'm done. But I'll come back tomorrow when these 2 are good and dry. It's going to be in the 60s again tomorrow, so.
Let's stop the cement and the water.
Alright, let me show you.
No, let's do it.
Let me show you, and you can do it. Don't do it too hard, you'll get this all over you. Look,
No.
see how easy I'm doing that?
Yeah.
If you do it too hard, it's going to splatter all over you. Real easy. And bring that across and go back. Alright, here. There you go. Keep pulling it back and forth. Good job.
Just say anyone.
You're doing good, buddy.
turning some good salmon.
Uh-huh. So today I have started, well, I did mill the beams to go across the piers that will support the mill. Now what I wound up with was a 5x7. And the reason I went 7 is because the throat of the HM130 Max will only go 7 inches deep. So in other words, if you got a cant and it's ever how big, this one in particular was like a 16x16 cant. So I could only drop down 7 inches to take a cut off. If I wanted, if I ever wanted to make something like an 8x8 timber, I would pretty much have to get a log big enough to where when I took 4 sides off of it, it was 8x8. I mean, 7 inches is the max you can get out of that throat, which is why I opted for the 7-inch height of these beams. And the reason I went 5 inches wide is by the time I put the mill up here and get the beams spaced apart properly, that 5 inches will be wide enough for good support, but it will let the log stops come down and miss the beam. It won't interfere with the up and down movement of those. So I could have went 4 inches, but I wanted to get as much meat as possible. So going with a 5-inch wide gave me that ability. So all right, I wanted to go over with you all how I was going to put these beams together. And if you've been following along, you know that I cut 4 10-foot beams and made the union in the center. That's why there is a 16-inch pier in the center and the rest of them are 8 inches wide. Now, my first thoughts about this was coming right here and doing a half lap where these two intersect. And yes, aesthetically that would look good, but there's really no point in doing that. I mean, we're on a 16-inch pier. It's not going anywhere. I'm just going to make a wooden gusset plate and put on the insides and let her rip. I've got these big timber lock screws that I'm going to be putting in there. They're made for this application. Alright, those beams are locked together with those gusset plates, and that's going to be good enough. Now I wanted to do the half lap. I don't see no need in it. I'm going to have these laterals going across with big 10-inch timber locks going through them. Going to have angle iron going down in the block, connected to the beams with timber locks. I mean, it ain't going nowhere. There's really no need for the fancy lap joints and all that. I mean, if you wanted to do that, that's fine, but it's just not necessary for what I'm doing. Here are the 10-inch. They are, what are they called? They are headlock. These are headlock. The reason I got this design is because it doesn't have a bolt head sticking out for me to catch my leg over. So that'll be nice and flat when it draws up. But that will go through the beam and into the lateral pieces. Like that one right there. I will put 2 timber locks in each side going into those laterals. You also notice the green color. I use a copper coat to treat the bottom where it's going to be touching the block, just in case any moisture wicking issues came up. But that's in there, boys and girls. My impact would be dead as a hammer if it had to drive probably a couple of these. Have to break out the old core to drill. Boy. That looks great. Hey, there's a job foreman. Hey, Puss in Boots. Meow, meow. Meow. Is it quitting time? That's my buddy, my sidekick. My sidekick, Puss in Boots. Alright, I had just enough. One bag of mortar was enough to put all of the anchors. See, my foreman's looking over it. What you say there, foreman? Meow, meow. It was enough to put all my anchors in. I didn't have enough to fill the rest of my block, but I had enough to do all the anchor points. See what I did in the center? I put my 2 laterals to either side of the middle pier. That way there'd be no dust build up in here. And I had enough room to secure it on both sides with angle iron. That's not going to come up or down. In there. Some places the holes didn't line up just right, so I just went where I had to. I see you, meow meow. You've done a good job. Take you over here. Sorry for moving so much. Got a couple of anchors right there in that center. And then down here on the very end. So that baby's not coming up. You saw the one I showed you earlier, the bottom of the angle iron. I cut it and folded it out like ears on the bottom. Drilled holes, and I put these timber frame screws in there for the focus. I got my lens dirty, but anyway, there we go. These timber frame screws are 3 inches long. I use these to put all the anchors on and secure the gusset plates with. And like I told you before, I used a 10-inch headlock, they call them, to screw through the beam into every lateral. Just in case I didn't show you, there they are. They have a flat head so that when they draw up, you don't have a bolt head sticking out to rake your shin across as you're pushing the band mill down the track. That's pretty good penetration right there. I'll show you. There's 2 of those in each side. Well, I'm going to leave this alone for the night, let it set up. I'll come back out here tomorrow. And I've got some more bags of mortar in my shop. Some old bags. They're not good enough. I can use it to fill the rest of these holes with. And I'm going to try to move my bandsaw mill this weekend. Everything's ready here, so we are anchored to the block. We are got our laterals in. We are gusseted in the middle. I mean, this is super strong compared to what I've seen on YouTube. I mean, there's a lot of good ideas out there, and some people will take treated timbers and bury them in the ground and then do a beam across the top of them and kind of do what I did, but instead of having block, they got treated timbers. And that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that. But I had a masonry background, and I had a bunch of old block laying around. I poured footers, 4-inch thick footers, laid the block. I'm filling the block solid with mortar mix, anchoring the beams down, anchoring the beams together. I mean, this is going to be one sturdy setup right here. I don't see it ever going anywhere. Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit. I hope I was able to squeeze in actual putting the mill on the new base. If I didn't put it in this video, I apologize. I just don't want my videos to be too long. I think I'm trying to stay under 20 minutes with all my videos. I don't want people to get bored to death. I mean, like, God, when's it going to be over? I want you to be excited and like what you're seeing. And so far, everybody seems to be. But I think if videos get epically too long, unless they are a compilation of a bunch of videos like some people, like this series here, I may come back a month or 2 from now and just put all this video together and do like one long video of the whole process, for especially people who are just coming onto the channel and they don't want to go back and scan through all of it. They can just watch the one long video, and that seems to be pretty successful for a lot of YouTubers, or pretty common for them to do. So I'll do one of those, of course. But if I didn't get the mill set up on the new base, I promise you I'll do it on the next one. And also, we're in February right now. As I'm making this part right here, it's February, just before Valentine's Day. I'm going to be doing a cedar swing build. I know I did a short on YouTube advertising my porch swing build that was coming up this month, and it was like a little 60-second short. It was showing a lot of the different swings and stands that I had built over the years. So I'm going to be doing one of those for you all. I want this channel to, you know, if you've read the information on this channel, the description rather, it tells you all the things that I'm going to be doing on here. So I want to kind of get that going. I want to get some woodworking, which will be the swing build coming up this month. I'm going to do some chainsaw milling. I've got a big maybe a 33-inch pine over there. It's a little too big for this mill, so I'm going to be getting my Granberg chainsaw mill out. I'll do a video on that. And I'm going to be doing some lathe turning. I've got a really old lathe I inherited from a good neighbor. He's passed away now, good man, but I was fortunate enough to get his old lathe and some of his other tools, and I'm going to be using that lathe to turn things. I've already turned a bowl. I may show a picture of that in one of my videos, but appreciate all you who watch my content so far. I mean, I've been at YouTube now for I think tomorrow will be a month that I've been doing YouTube, and the channel so far has got 20-some thousand views, and I'm over 200 subscribers. So, you know, I'm pretty happy about that. I don't know. Some channels have more success that do a lot of crazy stuff, but me, I'm just gonna do what I love to do and hope that I'm doing something you all love to see, and maybe you won't get bored. But anyway, I appreciate every one of you, and I will see you on the next one.